What if I told you the aloe vera on your windowsill is growing at a quarter of its potential? Most people kill their aloe by loving it too much. This was my aloe 6 months ago, what one viewer called octopus legs. This is the same plant today. The secret? I stopped caring so much. Modern plant care repeats the same advice. Water every 2 weeks, bright light, cactus soil. Your aloe survives. Slowly, barely. But aloe vera rewards the right conditions with explosive growth. The ancient Egyptians called it the plant of immortality, and they weren't talking about its reputation. Today, we are unlocking 20 of those secrets. Stick around, because number 14 is the fix for the most common reason aloe stops growing entirely. And number 20 is an ancient desert method that will change how you see this plant forever. Subscribe. We drop new plant videos every week that'll save you money and change how you grow. 20 aloe secrets, ranked from impressive to absolutely incredible. Let's get into it. Number 1, the gritty mix secret, the plant of immortality, the healer. The one plant that people keep on windowsills for decades without really understanding what it needs to thrive. Let us start at the foundation, because if the foundation is wrong, everything else fails. Aloe vera is a succulent, but not all succulents are the same. Aloe has specific soil needs that most commercial cactus mixes do not actually meet. Standard cactus soil is a start, but it retains too much moisture for aloe to reach its potential. Aloe actually wants a gritty mix, 50% high-quality cactus soil and 50% inorganic material such as coarse perlite, pumice, or decomposed granite in its native habitat across the Arabian Peninsula, North Africa, and the Canary Islands. Aloe vera grows in rocky, mineral-heavy soil that drains almost instantly after rain. The roots are adapted to a flood and dry cycle, not consistent moisture. When soil holds water around aloe roots for more than a day or two, the plant redirects energy from growing to defending itself from rot. Growth slows to almost nothing. The gritty mix solves this. Water floods through, roots dry out quickly, the plant stops defending and starts growing. Traditional Canary Island growers used volcanic grit in their soil centuries before anyone called it perlite. They just knew their aloe grew differently in rocky ground. Think of it as giving the plant its native language back. The moment it recognizes the soil, it starts speaking fluently. Number 2, the terracotta truth. Before plastic pots existed, aloe grew in clay, not by accident. Terracotta pots are porous. They breathe. Moisture evaporates through the walls, creating the exact dry cycle conditions aloe needs between waterings. Plastic pots trap moisture. Glazed ceramic traps moisture. Terracotta releases it. The type of pot is doing half your watering work for you. Put the same aloe in the same soil in a plastic pot versus a terracotta pot, and the terracotta plant will dry out faster, trigger the root system to search deeper, and produce noticeably more robust growth over a single season. Aloe vera growers across North Africa and the Middle East have been using unglazed clay vessels for thousands of years, not for aesthetics, for function. The clay was mimicking the rocky, fast-draining ground the plant grew in naturally. The pot was part of the growing system, not just a container. Modern gardening forgot this because plastic is cheaper, lighter, and easier to produce at scale. But for anyone serious about growing aloe to its potential, terracotta is not optional. It is the original technology, still the best one. Think of it as the pot that does its job, even when you are not paying attention. Number 3, the tight pot principle. This one surprises almost everyone. Aloe vera grows faster in a pot that feels almost too small than in a pot that gives it room to spread. Aloe is a desert plant that evolved in conditions where resources are scarce. When roots have open, unoccupied soil around them, the plant focuses energy on filling that space. Root expansion, not leaf production, not gel development, root expansion. Meanwhile, all that unoccupied soil holds moisture the plant is not using, which increases rot risk. In a tight pot, roots reach the walls quickly. The plant shifts strategy. It focuses on the part above the soil. Leaves thicken, new pups appear. The center of the plant pushes upward with real urgency. The traditional practice across Mediterranean and Middle Eastern aloe cultivation was always to keep plants crowded, multiple plants sharing containers, pots that seemed comically undersized for what was growing in them. This was not neglect, it was understanding. When aloe feels the pressure of limited space, it activates a growth mode that open space simply does not trigger. Move your aloe to a pot only 1 to 2 inches wider than the root ball. Watch what happens over the following 3 months. Think of it as creating productive pressure, the kind that makes a plant prove itself. Number 4, the soak and abandon method. 2-week watering schedules are the most dangerous thing you can do to an aloe vera. Not because they are too infrequent, because they are too consistent. Aloe vera does not respond to consistency, it responds to cycles. In the wild, it might go 6 weeks without rain, then receive a torrential downpour that saturates the ground completely, then nothing again for weeks. That oscillation between deep saturation and total dryness is what the root system is built for. It is what triggers the full extension of the water storage cells inside the leaves, the fat, firm, gel-filled leaves that make aloe recognizable. The soak and abandon method replaces the schedule with a signal. Water thoroughly, completely, until it pours from the drainage hole, and then do not water again until the soil is bone dry all the way down. Lift the pot. If it feels light, it is ready. If it still has weight, wait. In summer, this might mean watering every 10 days. In winter, it might mean watering once a month. The plant tells you when it is ready, not the calendar. Modern plant care replace this intuition with schedules because schedules are easy to follow. But schedules ignore what the plant is actually doing. Think of it as watering on the aloe's terms, not yours. Number 5, the bright but blocked secret. Aloe vera needs bright light. This is not wrong, but the advice is incomplete in a way that causes real damage. Direct, intense midday sun, especially through a glass window that concentrates heat, will sunburn aloe leaves. The tips brown. The surface develops white or orange scarring. The plant pulls moisture from its outer leaves to protect its core, which is the opposite of what you want. Aloe actually thrives in bright indirect light for most of the day, with gentle direct morning sun if possible. A south or east facing window with a thin curtain, or a spot a few feet back from a bright west facing window. Outdoors in summer, dappled shade during the hottest midday hours. When aloe receives the right quality of light, not too harsh, not too dim, it does not need to work hard to regulate its temperature. It can put all of that saved energy into growth. 6 to 8 hours of bright, filtered light produces more growth than 4 hours of direct sun, followed by hours of heat stress. Ancient aloe cultivation in Egypt and Arabia placed plants in east-facing positions, specifically. Morning light, afternoon shade. This was not spiritual, it was practical. They watched the plants and saw what the right light did. Think of it as giving the plant light it can actually use, rather than light it has to survive. Number 6, the stress color signal. When aloe vera leaves turn orange or reddish at the tips, most people assume the plant is struggling. They move it, water it more, start troubleshooting. That stress coloring is actually a sign of health. Aloe vera produces compounds called anthocyanins in response to high light exposure and mild stress. These pigments protect the plant from UV damage and signal that the plant is actively managing its environment. A slight red or orange blush on the leaf tips means the aloe is physiologically active, growing, producing gel, responding to its conditions. The mistake is treating the color as a symptom of a problem rather than as information. A mildly stressed aloe with good light, a tight pot, well-draining soil, and infrequent watering will show this coloring and will also grow significantly faster than a pampered, pale green aloe that gets everything at once all the time. This was understood intuitively by traditional growers across the Canary Islands, where aloe vera has been cultivated commercially for centuries. The reddest plants were not sick. They were the most productive. The signal was lost when indoor plant culture began treating every color change as distress. Some color changes are distress. The red and orange blush is not. Learn to read the difference. Think of it as the plant's way of showing you its work. Number 7, the pup separation window. Aloe vera produces offsets called pups from its base. Most people either remove them too early, which stresses both parent and pup, or leave them too long, which creates competition that slows everyone down. The timing matters. A pup needs to be at least 1/5 the size of the parent plant before separation. At that point, it has developed its own root system and can survive independently. Before that point, it is drawing entirely from the parent. After the parent gets crowded with multiple mature pups, the whole system slows down because resources are being divided rather than focused. When you separate a pup correctly, at the right size, and with its root system intact, the parent plant experiences a burst of growth within weeks. Resources that were being shared suddenly concentrate in one place. The parent fills out. New pups appear. The cycle continues. Separate the pup with a clean, sharp knife. Let the cut surface dry in open air for 2 to 3 days before potting. This callousing step is critical and almost universally skipped. A fresh cut planted directly into soil is an open door for rot. Think of it as making a deliberate investment decision, pruning back to unlock exponential return. Number 8. The bone meal advantage. Aloe vera does not need fertilizer. It will survive without it indefinitely. But survive and thrive are different things. The secret is not whether to fertilize, but what to use. Standard liquid fertilizers are too nitrogen heavy for aloe. Nitrogen drives leafy, soft, fast growth that looks dramatic, but produces watery, thin leaves with low gel content. The plant grows, but it grows weakly. Aloe responds best to a slow release, low nitrogen, high phosphorus amendment. Bone meal is the traditional answer. Mixed into the potting soil at repotting time, it releases phosphorus slowly over an entire growing season. Phosphorus strengthens root systems, supports cell wall development, and contributes to the firm, dense, gel-rich leaves that characterize a truly healthy aloe. Monthly liquid feeds during the growing season should be diluted to half the recommended strength and should use a balanced or low nitrogen formula, not a standard green plant feed. Bone meal disappeared from popular aloe care advice because it requires planning ahead, mixing it in at repotting, rather than pouring something on top later. But the results over a full season are unmistakable. Denser leaves, more pups, stronger root systems. Think of it as feeding the architecture, not just the surface. Number 9. The bottom watering method. This one has the most dramatic visible effect of anything on this list. Bottom watering means setting the pot in a tray of water for 20 to 30 minutes and letting the soil absorb moisture from below. The result is a root system that is completely different from what top watering produces. When water comes from above, roots grow toward the surface, where moisture is landing. When water comes from below, roots grow deep, reaching toward the source. Deep roots are stronger roots. They anchor the plant better, access more nutrients, and make the plant significantly more drought-tolerant between waterings. Bottom watering also keeps the soil surface and the base of the aloe stem completely dry. This matters because aloe stem rot always starts at the soil surface, where moisture collects around the base. Bottom watering essentially eliminates the most common path to the most common aloe failure. This practice was documented in Moorish botanical gardens in medieval Spain, where aloe vera was cultivated as a healing plant alongside irrigation channels that delivered water from below through permeable containers. The method was not invented by modern hydroponics. It was remembered from much older practice. Think of it as training your aloe's roots to go looking for water instead of waiting for it to arrive. Number 10. The winter slowdown secret. Most people try to keep aloe growing all year. Consistent light, consistent temperature, consistent watering, and the aloe just sits there, producing nothing for months, making everyone feel like they are doing something wrong. They are fighting the plant's biology. Aloe vera has a natural growth cycle. Spring and summer are active growing seasons. Fall and winter are rest. During rest, the plant consolidates. Root systems deepen. The gel inside existing leaves thickens and concentrates. The plant is not stagnant. It is preparing. The secret is to let it rest properly. Reduce watering to once a month or even less from November through February. Move it to slightly cooler temperatures. Not cold, but not heated room warm. Stop fertilizing entirely. Let the plant do what it naturally does. Then, watch what happens in March. When growing conditions return, an aloe that has rested properly launches into spring growth with a force that an artificially stimulated winter plant never shows. The burst is real. It is biological. Aloe farmers in North Africa documented this for generations, understanding seasonal cycling as the key to maximizing annual yield. Think of it as pulling back a slingshot. The rest is the tension. Spring is the release. If you're finding this useful, drop a like. Now let's keep going. Number 11. The summer outdoor secret. Most indoor plant guides skip this entirely. Aloe vera is not an indoor plant. It is a plant that tolerates indoors. There is a meaningful difference. Given the choice between a filtered window and actual outdoor conditions, real sunlight, natural temperature swings, outdoor humidity cycles, and wind, aloe will always perform better outside. The growth is not marginally better. It is dramatically better. Leaves that took months to develop indoors appear in weeks outdoors. The key is the transition. You cannot move an aloe that has lived indoors for months directly into full outdoor sun. The leaves will sunburn severely within days. The transition needs to take 2 weeks. Start in full shade. Move to morning sun, then morning sun plus afternoon shade, then full sun with midday shade. By the end of the transition, the plant is adapted and ready to grow with a force it simply cannot access through a window. Even 2 months outdoors in summer, on a porch, a balcony, or a patio, produces enough additional growth to visibly change the plant for the rest of the year. Think of it as returning the plant to its first language and watching it remember everything. Number 12. The dead root removal secret. Every time you repot aloe vera or rescue one, take a moment before putting it into new soil. Look at the roots. The healthy ones are firm and pale. The dead ones are brown, soft, and papery. Pull the dead ones off, all of them, with your hands or a clean pair of scissors. Dead roots sitting in soil do not just disappear. They become a pathway for fungal infection and rot to travel toward the healthy root mass. Removing them eliminates that pathway and forces the plant to redirect energy into generating new, healthy roots from the crown. After dead root removal, dust the root ball lightly with powdered sulfur or cinnamon, both natural antifungals, before repotting. Then let the whole root system air dry for 24 hours before introducing it to new soil. This practice was standard in traditional North African aloe farming before replanting. Clean the roots before you ask them to do new work. Think of it as clearing the pipeline before you turn on the water. Number 13. The harvest window secret. Aloe vera produces the most potent, most gel-rich leaves at a very specific point in their development. Understanding that window changes everything about the plant's growth cycle. The leaf to harvest is always the outermost, lowest leaf, the oldest on the plant. It should be thick, firm, and slightly plump. If it feels soft or watery, it is past its peak. If it feels thin and flat, it is not ready yet. When you harvest the oldest outer leaves correctly and regularly, the plant responds by accelerating the production of new leaves from the center. The harvest triggers growth, but only if you harvest the right leaf at the right time with a clean cut close to the base. Most people either harvest too rarely, letting outer leaves age and die on the plant, which signals to the plant that it has plenty of capacity and no urgency, or they harvest from the middle, which disrupts the growth pattern entirely. Think of it as editing the plant toward its best version. The harvest is not taking, it is directing. Number 14. The leggy aloe fix. This is the one I mentioned at the beginning. The single most common reason aloe vera stops producing new leaves entirely. When an aloe becomes leggy, when the stem between the soil and the lowest leaves grows long and bare, the plant has entered a holding pattern. It is not growing upward. It is not producing pups. It is simply maintaining what it has and waiting. This happens when light is consistently inadequate. The plant stretches toward light it cannot quite reach, elongating the stem, spacing out the leaves, spending all its energy on the search rather than on growth. The fix has 2 parts. First, move it to a genuinely brighter location. Second, fix the stem itself. A leggy aloe can be repotted deeper, burying the bare stem section in soil so that the lowest leaves sit just above the soil surface. The buried stem section will develop new roots. The plant will reset its growth posture. New leaves will emerge from the center with a frequency that the leggy version had not shown in months. This fix was practiced across Mediterranean aloe cultivation, going back to Roman-era botanical records. The plant was simply replanted at the correct depth when it had stretched too far. The concept is obvious once you understand it, but almost nobody in modern plant care talks about it. Think of it as hitting the reset button on a plant that forgot where it was trying to go. Number 15. The humidity myth. Aloe vera does not want humidity. This seems obvious, but an astonishing number of plant care sources still recommend grouping aloe with other tropical plants, placing it near humidifiers, or keeping it in bathrooms for the moisture. All of that is wrong. Aloe vera evolved in arid, dry air. When ambient humidity is high, the plant cannot evaporate moisture from its leaves efficiently. The internal pressure within the leaf cells that drives gel production and leaf firmness depends on a moisture gradient between the inside of the leaf and the dry air outside. High humidity eliminates that gradient. Leaves go soft. The water regulation mechanism that makes aloe partially shuts down. Keep aloe in the driest room in your house, not the wettest. Away from kitchens, bathrooms, and humidifiers. This is not fussy. It is the difference between a plant that firms up and grows and one that softens and stagnates. Think of it as letting the plant breathe the air it was built to breathe. Number 16, the spring repotting rule. Aloe vera can be repotted at any time of year, but repotted in spring at the very beginning of the active growing season. It responds with a growth acceleration that repotting in fall or winter simply does not produce. When you repot in spring, the plant is entering its most active growth phase with fresh soil, fresh space, and stimulated roots all at once. It channels the energy of the season directly into adaptation and new growth. Repotting in fall asks the plant to adapt while simultaneously slowing down for winter. The signals conflict. The result is minimal response. Spring repotting combined with the gritty mix, the tight pot, and bone meal amendment is the single most complete intervention you can make for a struggling aloe. It addresses soil, drainage, nutrients, and root stimulation in one session. Done in March or early April, the effects are visible by June. Think of it as sending the plant into its growing season with everything it needs already in place. Number 17, the pup beats leaf rule. When it comes to propagating aloe vera, there is one method that works and one that mostly does not. Most online content still promotes the one that mostly does not. Aloe vera leaves cannot be reliably propagated. Cut a leaf and place it in soil or water, and it will usually rot before it roots. The leaf has no node, no biological structure designed to produce roots. Some people get occasional successes, but the failure rate is high enough that it is not a practical propagation method. Pups are the answer every time. Pups have their own root primordia, the cellular foundation of a root system, from the moment they emerge. Separated correctly, at the right size, allowed to callus, and planted in gritty mix, pups have a success rate approaching 100%. The leaf propagation myth persists because it works reliably for many other succulents such as echeveria and sedums. Aloe is the exception. Not knowing the exception means months of failed attempts and the belief that something is wrong with your technique when the problem is just the method. Think of it as using the right door instead of trying to build a new one. Number 18, the root rot rescue protocol. Root rot is not a death sentence for aloe vera. It feels like one. The plant goes limp, the base turns brown and mushy, leaves collapse. But if you act quickly and correctly, you can save almost any aloe that has not completely lost its root system. Remove the plant from soil immediately. Cut away every soft, brown, or mushy section, roots and stem, until you reach firm, healthy tissue. If you have to cut all the way up to where leaves are still firm and green, that is where you cut. You now have what looks like a cutting with no roots at all. Let it dry completely in open air for 3 to 5 days. The cut surface will callus and seal, then plant it in completely dry, fresh, gritty mix, and do not water for 2 weeks. The plant will begin producing roots from the calloused base during this time, drawing on the moisture stored in its own leaves. This rescue works because aloe's water storage system in its leaves is effectively a survival reserve. A healthy leaved aloe can root itself from nothing if given dry conditions and time. The protocol comes from traditional practices used across Canary Island aloe farms after flooding events that would rot entire plantings. Farmers did not discard the plants. They cut, dried, and replanted. Recovery rates were remarkably high. Think of it as giving the plant's survival instincts the right conditions to do their job. Number 19, the gravel drainage myth. This one is important because it is so widely recommended and so genuinely harmful. Putting a layer of gravel, pebbles, or stones at the bottom of an aloe pot does not improve drainage. It makes drainage worse. This seems counterintuitive, which is why the practice persists. But soil physics explains it clearly. Water moves through soil in a continuous column. When it hits a layer of different material, like gravel, the column breaks. Water pools at the boundary between the soil and the gravel layer, creating a perched water table directly in the root zone. The roots sit in that pooled water, not in drainage, but in standing water. Research from horticultural science departments has confirmed this repeatedly, but the gravel layer advice predates that research by generations and became embedded in gardening culture so deeply that it persists regardless. For aloe, the only drainage solution that works is gritty soil all the way through, no layers, no separation, and a pot with genuine drainage holes at the bottom. The gravel layer is one of the most common direct causes of aloe root rot in container growing. Remove it. Mix grit into the soil itself. Let the whole column drain. Think of it as removing the dam you accidentally built inside your pot. Number 20. The ancient desert burial method. This is the growing practice that predates every gardening book. It comes directly from how aloe vera grows in the wild in the Saharan and Arabian deserts. Once you understand it, it changes how you think about the plant entirely. In the wild, aloe vera does not sit on top of the ground. It grows with its lower stem and base buried in rocky soil or gravel, with only the leaves extending upward. The base is anchored deep. The roots splay outward and downward into whatever crack or crevice holds mineral-rich substrate. The plant's geometry is an anchor, not a pedestal. In container growing, we almost always pot aloe too shallow. The entire stem sits above the soil. The base is exposed to air. The root system is pressed into a shallow pan of soil that does not give it the depth and pressure it evolved to grow in. The ancient desert burial method works like this. When planting or repotting aloe, bury the stem significantly deeper than feels comfortable, 1 to 2 inches deeper. The lowest leaves should brush the soil surface. The base should be fully embedded. In gritty mix that drains immediately, this depth creates no rot risk. What it creates instead is extraordinary root development. Roots develop along the buried stem section. The plant's anchor system multiplies. An aloe with a deep, wide root system grows leaves at a rate that a shallow potted aloe simply cannot match. 20 secrets. One plant. A completely different way of seeing it. If this changed how you think about what is possible with the aloe vera on your windowsill, click the video on the left. Because in that one, we look at another plant that has been sitting in your house for years, silently underperforming because nobody told it the truth about what it actually needs. Subscribe to Plantelligence, and I will see you there. Now go bury that aloe a little deeper and watch what happens.